The mind revisits what the heart hasn't resolved. Unknown. If you've developed the habit of thinking about one specific person, pay attention because something real is happening inside you. It usually starts small, a quick thought, a random memory, then it repeats. Soon, they're the first thing you think about in the morning, and at night, when everything gets quiet, they show up again, like your mind is calling them back. You try to distract yourself with work, routines, music, other people, but it doesn't last. And then you begin asking the same questions many men ask. Why can't I stop thinking about them? Is this love or is it attachment? Am I missing them or missing what they represented in my life? Here's the point. When thinking about someone becomes a habit, when your mind keeps returning to the same person over and over, it isn't neutral. It affects your emotions, it shapes your choices, and it can quietly keep you stuck in the past, even while your life keeps moving forward. And the surprising part is this: it doesn't only affect you. Even if you haven't spoken in a long time, even if they're far away, even if they act like they've moved on, your repeated attention toward them can create a reaction on the other side too. Sometimes through feelings, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through sudden memories that come out of nowhere. So if you've been thinking about someone nonstop, don't ignore it. Because when it becomes a habit to think about a person, three specific things begin happening to them, and I'm going to break those three things down next. 1. Your thoughts start reaching their subconscious mind. When your mind keeps circling back to one person, it can feel like you're building a quiet bridge to them. No calls, no messages, just a steady stream of attention that never really shuts off. This is where psychology tips start to matter. The human brain is a meaning maker. When you focus on someone repeatedly, your emotions attach to their memory like a song stuck on repeat. You may not be talking to them, but your body is still speaking. Your posture changes. Your mood shifts. The way you show up online feels different. Even your reactions carry a trace of that person. Don't dismiss this. Be aware of it. That is how connection often works in real life. You think, you feel, you act, and sometimes the other person senses the change before you ever say a word. Have you ever thought about someone nonstop for days, and then suddenly they view your story, send a message after a long silence, or their name shows up in the most unexpected place right when you were thinking of them? It feels like the universe is tapping you on the shoulder. And here's the grounded truth. It's not always fate, but it's not random either. It resonates. Partly emotional, part psychological, part social. Your subconscious mind is always scanning for familiar signals, and so is theirs. Don't tell yourself you're imagining things, but don't convince yourself everything is mystical either. Be balanced. That is essential. You need to understand the antenna effect. When you care about someone, your attention sharpens. Your memory gets louder. Your brain labels everything connected to them as important. Their name, a song they liked, a car that looks like theirs, a time of day you used to talk. Your mind highlights these details like a neon sign. That's psychology, not fantasy. And it's powerful. But it goes further. When your feelings run deep, love, regret, longing, or that heavy sense of unfinished business, you send signals through your behavior without realizing it. You might post differently. You might respond faster or slower. You might accidentally like something old. You might place yourself where you think they might be. And they notice because people are extremely sensitive to shifts in attention, especially when there's shared history. That's why people sometimes say, I don't know why, but I suddenly felt like calling you. Sometimes it's a real emotional pull. Sometimes it's timing mixed with memory and curiosity. Either way, the lesson is the same. Your thoughts don't sit quietly in your head like polite guests. They shape your mood. Your mood shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes the social world around you. Be careful what you send out. People can feel your emotional temperature even when they can't explain it. Third, if this person isn't good for you, don't romanticize the pull. Don't confuse emotional intensity with compatibility. Be honest with yourself. This is where psychology tips save you. The brain loves familiar patterns, even when they no longer help you grow. Fourth, if this is about dreams, when someone appears in your dream and it feels like it must mean something, don't turn it into a rigid prophecy. Dreams often reflect what your mind is processing: unresolved emotions, curiosity, fear of loss, desire for closeness, or the need for closure. Be gentle with yourself. Ask, what is this dream showing me about me? More than, what is this dream saying about them? That is where your power lives. And finally, keep your energy clean in practical ways. Sleep well, eat well, move your body. Limit late-night mental spirals. Stop checking their profile like it's a second job. Don't do that. Be disciplined. That is attractive. That is self-respect. Whether this connection comes from intuition, shared history, or your brain's remarkable pattern-detecting ability, the goal stays the same: peace, clarity, and a relationship dynamic, whether it continues or ends, that does not cost you your dignity. If you want lasting results, take love advice seriously. Be calm, be clear, be brave. If you want better outcomes, take dating tips seriously. Show intention, not pressure. And if you want to stop feeling ruled by signs, take psychology tips seriously. Understand your mind, then lead it. Don't let it lead you. 2. Their energy field begins to mirror yours. Their energy is already walking beside yours. Let's start here. Their energy field begins to mirror yours. You've probably heard this line before. Two people connected by the heart feel each other's emotions even from afar. Most people treat that sentence like poetry, something nice, something soft, something you nod at and move on from. But this isn't poetry. That's the physics of energy. And once you understand it, a lot of confusion disappears. Dreams make sense. Sudden thoughts make sense. Unexpected messages make sense, especially when it comes to love psychology and the invisible forces that quietly shape attraction, attachment, and emotional pull. The invisible field you carry everywhere. Every human being carries an electromagnetic field, not a metaphor, not a belief system, a fact. You might call it an aura. You might call it presence. You might just call it a vibe. Whatever the label, it's real. This field vibrates with your emotional state. Your calm shows, your tension leaks, your peace speaks before your mouth ever does. That's why some men attract women effortlessly without saying much, and others say everything right yet feel invisible. Energy speaks first, words follow later. What happens when you think about someone repeatedly? Now pay attention. When you habitually think about someone, your energy field begins to synchronize with theirs. Not instantly, not magically, but gradually, naturally, like two clocks on the same wall slowly ticking into rhythm. Their mood starts to shift. Their thoughts begin to echo yours. Even their life path may subtly align with your vibration. This is where most men misunderstand attraction. They think attraction is something you do. It's not. Attraction is something you become. That's why emotional discipline is one of the most overlooked relationship goals for men who want depth, not drama. The moments that feel too perfect to be random. Ask yourself this: have you ever noticed you think of them and suddenly they appear online? Or you feel low and somehow they text you at that exact moment? That's not random. That's reflection. Your internal state sends a signal. Their nervous system picks it up. You think of them at 2 a.m. They feel restlessness in their sleep. You feel peace. They feel comfort without knowing why. No conversation required. No explanation needed. Your aura has touched theirs, like ripples meeting in the middle of a quiet lake. That image matters, because ripples don't force each other. They meet naturally. That's how real connection works. Why emotional intensity strengthens the bond. Here's the rule most people never learn. The more emotional your thoughts, the stronger the connection grows. Emotion is fuel, attention is direction. When those two combine, energy moves. This is why obsession feels powerful at first and destructive later, because intensity without balance creates pressure, not connection. Men who master this become quietly magnetic. Men who don't feel drained, confused, and reactive. A modern Stoic understands this difference. He doesn't suppress emotion, he guides it. Love heals, pain blocks. Let's be precise. When you think of them with love, warmth, and forgiveness, you heal both hearts. That's not sentimental, that's neurological. Calm, emotional focus regulates your nervous system. Their nervous system mirrors it. But when you think with pain, anger, or obsession, you block your energy and theirs too. You tighten, they tighten, you spiral, they feel uneasy without knowing why. This is why unresolved emotion doesn't stay private. It travels. So don't pretend your thoughts don't matter. They do. Why the universe whispers, let go. This is where resistance shows up. That's why the universe often whispers, let go. Not because they don't matter, read that again, not because they don't matter, but because love must flow freely. Clinging isn't love. Monitoring isn't connection. Overthinking isn't care. Love that needs control isn't stable. A man with strong relationship goals understands this deeply. He doesn't chase energy, he aligns with it. Love is not possession. Say this slowly. Love is never about possession. It's about connection. Possession creates fear. Connection creates trust. Possession asks, are you still mine? Connection says, I am steady, with or without proof. That difference alone changes how you attract women more than any technique ever will. Presence beats pressure. Always. When love becomes medicine. Here's the quiet power most men overlook. When you think lovingly without expectation, your energy becomes medicine for both of you. No agenda, no outcome obsession, no silent contracts, just warmth. And something interesting happens. You may notice they become calmer, more focused, even happier, not because you fixed them, but because you stopped disturbing the emotional field. That's advanced love psychology. You are always affecting them. There is no neutral state. You are always affecting them through chaos or calm. Even silence carries weight. Even distance communicates. So don't ask, am I doing anything? You are. The real question is, what are you transmitting? Choose peace. Every time. This is where responsibility comes in. So choose peace. Not passivity, not withdrawal, peace. Because whatever you think about them becomes part of their emotional atmosphere. And whatever emotional atmosphere you create, you eventually live inside. That's not fate, that's feedback. The man who understands this stands apart. A man who understands this doesn't beg for connection. He doesn't force attraction. He doesn't chase reassurance. He refines his inner state. That alone elevates his presence. That alone reshapes his relationships. That alone aligns him with the mindset of a modern Stoic, steady, aware, grounded, and yes, that is how you naturally attract women, sustain meaningful bonds, and pursue higher relationship goals without losing yourself. Dreams aren't accidents. Thoughts aren't random. Connection isn't limited by distance. Be intentional with your inner world. Don't cling. Be calm. That is strength. You must choose clarity over chaos. Because when your energy is clean, everything it touches responds. And that includes the people who show up in your dreams. 3. Destiny begins to rearrange circumstances. When a person keeps showing up in your dreams, especially when you didn't invite them there, it is not random. It is not mystical fluff. It is your mind, your memory, and your emotional circuitry sending you a precise message. Destiny begins rearranging circumstances the moment sustained emotion is involved. Focused attention is direction. Direction produces outcomes. When you think about someone deeply and repeatedly, your inner world begins aligning your outer world to match that signal. Psychology explains this clearly. The brain is a pattern-seeking machine. It tags emotionally charged people as unfinished business. Then it looks for resolution through symbols, dreams, and repeated reminders. That's why you suddenly notice their name everywhere. That's why a song tied to a shared moment plays at the exact time you least expect it. That's why a dream feels vivid, real, and unfinished. That's why chance encounters don't feel like chance at all. These moments feel meaningful because they are, not because fate is chasing romance, but because your nervous system is pushing for integration, clarity, and growth. Carl Jung said it best: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The dream is not about the other person. It is about what they represent inside you: a lesson, a standard, a wound, or a version of yourself that wants to be reclaimed. This is where an old Stoic mindset becomes essential. An old Stoic understood that events themselves are neutral. Meaning is assigned internally. The dream is not a command to chase someone. It is an instruction to examine what still has leverage over your attention. Attention is currency. A high-value man does not spend currency without purpose. He audits it. He controls it. Stoicism teaches that mastery begins with observation, not reaction. If someone appears in your dreams, it is not always an invitation to return. Sometimes it is a final review before release. Sometimes it is proof of growth. Sometimes it is a reminder of a standard you once lived by and must live by again. Love does not vanish. Respect does not disappear. Connection changes form. Memory becomes wisdom. Attachment becomes boundaries. Modern life complicates this process. Constant stimulation kills reflection. Men between 35 and 70 carry decades of decisions, responsibility, and silent compromise. The mind uses dreams to cut through the noise. The decisive truth is this: your thoughts shape your trajectory, not magically, neurologically, behaviorally, socially. What you dwell on influences how you speak, how you move, how you decide, how you show up. That alters outcomes. When you think of someone consistently, your behavior shifts subtly. You become more alert to reminders, more reflective, more open, or more guarded. This creates what looks like coincidence, but is actually alignment. Alignment is not about reunion. Alignment is about correction. An old Stoic understood that correction is the purpose of life, not comfort. Do not chase the image. Chase the insight. Do not ask why they appeared in the dream. Ask what the dream demands of your character now. More honesty, more closure, more restraint, more courage. A high-value man does not outsource meaning to the universe. He extracts meaning through discipline. Psychology supports this. Men who consciously process emotional memory gain clarity and confidence. Men who avoid it repeat cycles. This is especially critical in understanding female psychology, where projection replaces self-mastery and confusion replaces connection. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If the dream reminds you of who you were at your best, become that man again. If it reveals where you settled, raise your standard. If it exposes lingering attachment, bring it to completion with gratitude, not regret. Victory in life is not reclaiming the past. Victory is mastering the present. Mastery comes from consistency. Consistency of thought, consistency of behavior, consistency of values. Think deliberately, act deliberately, interpret deliberately. Remember this truth from every angle. Dreams are messages, not mandates. Emotions are data, not directives. Alignment is growth, not repetition. Stoicism keeps you steady, while modern life pulls you toward noise and impulse. Use the dream as a tool, not a trap. Let it refine your judgment, strengthen your boundaries, elevate your direction. When you do, destiny rearranges circumstances, not to bring someone back, but to move you forward, stronger, clearer, grounded. That is the mark of a high-value man, rooted in Stoicism, informed by female psychology, living by the discipline of the old Stoic way. 4. Your identity quietly reshapes itself around the thought. When someone becomes a habit in your mind, the deepest shift isn't how they affect your emotions. It's how you begin to change who you are. Very few people notice this. You're not just missing them, you're rebuilding yourself around the memory of them. You start asking questions like, if they were still here, how would I be living? Who was I when I was with them? Was that version of me stronger or weaker than who I am now? This is where psychology enters very real territory. The human brain doesn't just store memories, it constructs identity from emotionally intense bonds. When you think about someone long enough and deeply enough, you're not only remembering them, you're comparing your present self to a past version of yourself. That's why the feeling can be so strange. It's not exactly missing them, it's missing who you were when you were with them. Maybe you were softer, braver, more open, or the opposite, more fragile, more dependent, less boundaries. Your mind doesn't return to them to pull you backward. It returns to ask you one clear question: which version of yourself needs to be kept and which one needs to be released? If you don't answer this consciously, you end up living in quiet conflict. Your body exists in the present, but your identity is still anchored in memory. That's when you notice difficulty connecting with someone new, constant comparison, easy disappointment, the feeling that no one is like them, not because they were extraordinary, but because you haven't separated the lesson from the person. Healing here is not about forgetting them, it's about reclaiming yourself. Keep the strengths you discovered, release the roles that no longer fit. Don't live to repeat the past, live to outgrow it. 5. Life pauses until you reclaim your attention. This is something few people want to hear, but it's true. When one person occupies too much space in your mind, life slows down. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because your attention is still locked on an old point. Psychology calls this an attention lock. You still go to work, you still talk, you still smile, but inside, part of your energy is somewhere else. And life doesn't move forward when you're not fully present. Opportunities appear, you hesitate. New people show up, you compare. Small joys arrive, they feel incomplete. Not because the present lacks value, but because your mind hasn't fully returned. That's why so many people say, it feels like my life stopped when they left. Life didn't stop. You just haven't handed leadership back to yourself yet. Life responds honestly. When you keep looking backward, it doesn't open the road ahead. When you cling to one memory, it doesn't place something new in your hands. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're not yet available. Letting go here isn't denying your feelings. Letting go means stopping memories from making your decisions, stopping longing from setting your direction, stopping the wait for signs from the outside and beginning to ask, how do I choose to live now? When you reclaim your attention, your energy returns, your decisions sharpen, your emotions lighten, and life begins to move again, quietly, without drama, just the current returning to its rightful flow. 6. Your nervous system is asking for closure, not reunion. This is where most people get confused, and it's not their fault. When someone keeps returning to your thoughts, the first story the mind tells is usually, they must still matter. This must mean something. Maybe we're meant to reconnect, but very often that interpretation is incomplete. What's really happening underneath is far more physical, far more human, and far more grounded in psychology. Your nervous system hasn't completed the emotional experience yet. The human nervous system is built for survival first, not romance. It wants safety, predictability, and resolution. When a bond ends without emotional closure, without clarity, without repair, without a sense of completion, the nervous system stays activated. Not because it wants the person back, but because it never received the signal that the situation is over and safe. So it keeps the memory alive. This is why the thoughts feel automatic. Why do they appear when you're exhausted? Why do they surface at night, in silence or in dreams? Why do they return when your guard is down? Your mind isn't whispering, go find them. It's saying, something here didn't finish processing. There is a crucial difference. Reunion seeks another person. Closure restores your internal regulation. Most people confuse emotional activation with destiny, but psychology shows us that what feels like unfinished love is often unfinished self protection. Ask yourself honestly, did I ignore my own boundaries? Did I silence my needs to keep the connection? Did I leave without being heard? Did I stay longer than my body felt safe with? Did I never get to say what mattered? When those moments aren't acknowledged, the nervous system stays alert. It replays the memory like an unfinished loop, not for romance, but for resolution. This is why telling yourself to just move on rarely works, why distraction only numbs temporarily, why time alone doesn't always heal. The nervous system doesn't calm through suppression, it calms through recognition. Closure is not something the other person gives you. Closure is something your body grants itself when it feels seen. And that requires a different kind of conversation, an internal one. You begin by slowing down and listening to what the thought carries instead of fighting it. Not asking, why do I still think about them? But asking, what part of me didn't feel safe, honored, or finished? Closure sounds like, I see why this hurts. I understand why I stayed. I forgive myself for what I didn't know then. I don't need them to validate this anymore. I survived this, and I'm safe now. These statements are not affirmations. They are regulatory signals. When your nervous system receives them consistently, something important happens. The urgency fades, the emotional charge softens, the memory loses its pull. The person may still matter, but they no longer control your inner state. This is how a memory transforms from a trigger into a reference, from a wound into information, from something that pulls you backward into something that grounds you forward. And here is the clearest truth most people never hear. If the thoughts disappear after internal closure, it was never about reunion. It was about completion. If the thoughts remain but feel calm, spacious, and non-demanding after closure, then you can evaluate the connection clearly, without longing, without fantasy, without self-abandonment. Either outcome is healthy, because now you are choosing, not reacting. Your nervous system is no longer scanning the past for danger. It's available for the present, for real connection, for new experiences, for life as it is, not as it was. This is not forgetting. This is integration. And integration is what peace actually feels like in the body. Not silence, not numbness, but a steady, grounded sense that nothing is unfinished anymore. That is when the thoughts finally loosen their grip. Not because you forced them away, but because they've done their job and you listened. The deeper meaning. Here is the deeper meaning, and don't rush past it, because when a person keeps showing up in your thoughts again and again, it's not random. It's not a sign you're stuck in the past. It's a signal that something inside you is still active, still unfinished, still asking for attention. And no, it doesn't automatically mean destiny, soulmate, or some dramatic label movies love to sell you. Don't romanticize it too quickly. Be grounded, be honest, be calm. Often, this mental return is about energy that hasn't settled yet, a chapter that taught you something but didn't close cleanly. That person, whether they stayed for years or only a brief moment, arrived to wake something up inside you, not to stay forever. That distinction matters. Some people come to activate love, not to become love itself. Some arrive to teach patience when life is pushing you too fast. Some bring forgiveness when you are holding on too tightly. Others reveal strength you didn't know you had. When your mind circles back to them, don't tell yourself you're losing control. You're not. You're becoming aware. This is where psychology tips really matter. The mind uses familiar faces as mirrors, not because it misses them, but because they reflect something still alive inside you. So don't fixate on the person. Focus on the emotion. That is the rule. If thinking about them brings discomfort or heaviness, don't avoid it. Don't numb it. Don't pretend you're past it. Be brave and look closer. That feeling points directly to healing that hasn't happened yet. Healing is not a weakness. It's maintenance. If the thought brings longing, a quiet ache, or a sense of absence, don't chase the past. Be present. What you're being asked to learn is self-respect and self-love, the kind that doesn't depend on someone else choosing you. This is where most love advice goes wrong. It tells you to forget or obsess. Neither works. Understanding does. Integration does. Growth does. Real dating tips don't start with who you meet. They start with who you are when no one is watching. And if thinking about them brings calm, neutrality, or even gratitude, don't dismiss it. That's clarity settling in. That means the lesson landed. Your mind is filing it away with respect. Awareness isn't passive, it's intelligent. It's your inner system saying, "This mattered, I learned." For men who've lived long enough to know life is layered, this isn't about shortcuts. It's about emotional clarity and direction. So don't judge yourself for thinking. Don't label reflection as weakness. Be disciplined instead. Ask better questions. What did this connection teach you about how you love, how you trust, how you protect your boundaries? When you do that, the memory stops controlling you and starts teaching you. That's the difference between being stuck and being wise. Psychology tips support this because the brain revisits emotional experiences until meaning is extracted. Let it work. Guide it. Don't fight it. The same applies to love advice rooted in understanding, not suppression. And dating tips become sharper when you know yourself deeply because you stop repeating familiar pain and start choosing healthier patterns. Be intentional. Be reflective. Be patient. Don't rush closure. Don't force forgetting. Don't confuse intensity with importance. Sometimes the people who visit your thoughts aren't asking to return to your life. They're reminding you of who you became because they passed through it. And that is growth, quietly doing its work. How to transform the habit into healing. Don't fight the thoughts. Guide them. When a person appears in your dream, it usually means one thing. Your mind is processing unfinished emotion, unfinished meaning, unfinished tension. It uses that person's face as the simplest symbol it can find. This is not a mystery. This is not fate. This is a message from your own system asking for resolution. As Marcus Aurelius, an old Stoic and a cornerstone of Stoicism, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. That is your assignment. Govern your inner world. Be the high-value man who doesn't beg his thoughts to disappear, but instructs them to become useful. The next time their face appears, awake or asleep, give yourself a clear script and deliver it like an order. I send you peace. I send you love. I release you to your journey as I continue mine." Say it slowly. Mean it fully. Repeat it until your nervous system accepts it. This is not pretending. This is training. Psychology tips matter here because the brain repeats what still carries emotional charge. You don't win by resisting the charge. You win by draining it with intention. Modern life is loud, messages, old photos, accidental reminders, so you must be deliberate. If you don't guide your attention will be guided for you. That is why Stoicism remains relevant today. Don't confuse attachment with love. Don't confuse longing with destiny. As Carl Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Make it conscious. Name it. Release it. That is strength. Understand this clearly. The dream is about you, not her. Female psychology can help you understand patterns, but it becomes a trap when it turns into obsession. Use it as a tool, not a cage. Decide with clarity. Act with dignity. Close doors cleanly when needed. Epictetus taught in the firm language of Stoicism, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." React with mastery. Repeat the release. Repeat the peace. Repeat the love. Over time, the emotional pull fades. Healing begins. Gratitude replaces pain. That is mastery. Quiet, firm, unshakable. The mark of an old Stoic in a modern world. The mark of a high-value man who uses psychology tips, Stoicism, and female psychology to lead himself first until the dream stops pulling and starts teaching, and you have already moved on. Closing message. If you think about someone constantly, know this. You're not crazy. You're not weak, you're human, with a heart that feels deeply. Your thoughts reach their subconscious. Your energies mirror each other. Destiny rearranges itself to teach, heal, or reunite. Your mind is not just a space, it's a transmitter, and the person you can't stop thinking about feels it too. So when their face appears in your mind, smile, breathe, and say, "May we both find peace, love, and purpose in this connection." Then let go with grace. Because if they're meant to be in your life, they'll return. Not through force, but through the gentle power of destiny. Sometimes the heart knows what the mind can't explain, and sometimes letting go is the most loving thing you can do.